Today we are conducting an in-depth exploration into the life of Spencer Lofranco, a Canadian actor whose career was, well, a real flash in the pan.
A very bright flash, though. It was brief, really just 5 documented years, but in that time he was on screen with some of Hollywood's biggest names.
And then his life ended so abruptly in late 2025. It's a remarkable and a tragic story.
It really is. It's defined by these intense contradictions. You have this, rapid professional success on one hand, and then this significant personal turbulence on the other.
Born in 1992, he hit his peak visibility between 2013 and 2018, but he passed away at just 33, leaving behind a story that just feels so unfinished.
Exactly.
So our goal today is to conduct a really extensive analysis of the source material we have, biographical info, career summaries, news reports, to try and synthesize the full arc of his life.
Right. We want to understand the promise he showed, but also look at how his personal legal history and that strange 7-year career gap, how that all provides context for his final days.
The material is rich, but it is challenging. We have to connect the dots across these very different phases of his life.
You have this highly structured upbringing, then an explosive entry into Hollywood, a very public personal crisis, and then silence, really, before his death.
So we're going to navigate these facts to give you, the listener, a full picture of Spencer Lofranco's impact.
Let's start at the beginning, the foundations.
Section 1. His early life and education. Let's establish the background and the forces that shaped him early on.
Spencer Lofranco was born in Toronto, Ontario, October 18th, 1992. And his family background, it really gives you some immediate clues about the different influences in his life.
Yeah, his father was Rocco C. Lofranco, often called Rocky. He was a lawyer.
And his mother, Amy Lofranco, was an opera singer.
That's a fascinating combination, isn't it?
It really is. You've got the methodical, structured world of law from his father, and then this deep, emotional, performance-driven world of the arts from his mother.
It's like a built-in contradiction right there in his family unit.
It absolutely sets the stage for a life that's trying to balance structure with expression.
The sources also note his parents divorced when he was a child. He was raised in Thornhill, Ontario, with an older brother, Santino.
So that adds another layer to his development, a split household.
And this all leads to probably the most unusual detail about his formative years, his schooling.
Right. The sources are very clear that he struggled in a traditional school system. It just wasn't a good fit.
So what happened?
Well, because of those struggles, he ended up attending Robert Land Academy. And he was there from 9th grade all the way through 12th grade.
And we should be really clear, this wasn't just some boarding school, it's a military school.
Exactly. A military academy focused on discipline, structure, character.
That one detail is so critical. Think about it. A teenager having academic trouble, and the solution is to put him in a military academy for 4 years.
It's an intense, highly structured environment that is just the complete opposite of the world of acting he was about to step into.
It's a massive contrast.
You have to wonder what that does to a person. Military training, it's about instilling iron discipline, physical control, following orders.
Skills that are surprisingly probably very useful on a film set.
Profoundly useful. Hitting your marks, enduring long hours, maintaining focus under pressure. That's all part of the job.
I wonder if that forced discipline gave him a certain kind of intensity on screen. If he was channeling all that rigidity into these emotionally volatile characters he played.
That's a really sharp insight. It could have given his performances a kind of contained power. Maybe that structure was the foundation he needed to handle the vulnerability his art required.
It definitely shows an ability to adapt. When the conventional path wasn't working, he committed to something completely different.
It's a very unusual preparation for a Hollywood star, that's for sure.
It provides this backdrop of discipline right before the chaos of fame. And wow, what a rush it was. Let's move to Section 2. His rapid ascent. This covers 2013 to 2015.
It wasn't just a start, it was an explosion. His whole documented career is just 5 years, 2013 to 2018. But the kinds of projects he got in just the first 2 years, it's just astonishing for a newcomer.
His debut was in 2013. The film was a romantic comedy at Middleton.
He was cast back in June 2012. He played Conrad Hartman, a high school senior.
And the film premiered at the Seattle International Film Festival in May 2013. But the important part is who he was working with.
Right, his very first movie, and he's sharing the screen with Andy Garcia and Vera Farmiga.
That's incredible.
That kind of validation, being seen as a peer to seasoned pros right out of the gate, it's very rare.
And he got noticed. The sources point out he won the Denver Film Festival Rising Star Award for that role.
And that's crucial. It's an early stamp of critical approval. The industry didn't just hire him, they recognized him as a talent to watch.
So, building on that, his first starring role comes almost immediately, 2014, in the biographical crime drama Jamesy Boy.
Yeah, he played the lead, James Burns, a troubled teenager. This was a huge jump in responsibility.
Going from a supporting role to carrying an entire film.
And it was a gritty role. It seemed to tap into that specific intensity he had, maybe that control he learned at the academy.
And again, look at the supporting cast. Mary Louise Parker, Ving Rhames, Taissa Farmiga.
It shows this immense trust they put in him to anchor the whole project, even with his limited experience.
You see the pattern, don't you? He's consistently put up against the best in the business.
He skipped all the usual steps, the minor roles, the TV guest spots. He just jumped right into the deep end.
And the momentum just kept building. Later in 2014, he moves from indie films to a major studio war drama directed by an absolute A-lister.
We're talking about Unbroken.
Directed by Angelina Jolie.
This was a massive project. He played Harry Brooks, one of the airmen. The film put him on the international stage.
And the sources have this really humanizing detail here. Lofranco had apparently described Angelina Jolie as his dream girl when he was growing up.
Imagine that. One minute, she's an icon you admire from afar. The next, she's your director on a huge movie set.
It really just underscores the sheer speed of his rise. Unbroken solidified him as a serious dramatic actor.
And he didn't slow down. In 2015, he did a short thriller film called Home, playing a character named Mark.
Which shows he was still willing to do smaller, maybe more artistic projects in between the big ones.
And that year ended with another strong indie film, the crime movie Dixieland.
He co-starred as a character named Billy, alongside Riley Keefe, Chris Zilka, and Faith Hill.
And Dixieland premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival.
A Tribeca premiere is a big deal. It means you have buzz in the independent film world.
So if you look at that 3-year period, 2013 to 2015, it's just the textbook definition of a Hollywood ascent. An acclaimed debut, carrying a biopic, a role in a major war drama, festival recognition. He did it all.
Which sets us up perfectly for Section 3. The peak of visibility in his final roles, from 2016 to 2018. This is the critical period because it's the highest point of his career, and it comes right before the stop.
In 2016, he was in King Cobra. This was a really significant film for his public profile. He played a character named Mikey.
It was a very star-studded cast, as the sources note. Christian Slater, Molly Ringwald, James Franco.
It was also a controversial film based on a true story, and it dealt with some pretty dark subject matter. It kept him in the public eye.
You can see the kinds of projects he was choosing were becoming more challenging, more explicit.
He wasn't afraid of difficult material. King Cobra cemented that reputation.
And that all culminated 2 years later, in 2018, with what would tragically become his last credited film role.
Gotti.
In Gotti, he played John A. Gotti, John Gotti Jr., acting opposite John Travolta.
He was Travolta's son in the film. I mean, this was arguably his most high-profile role.
Playing the son of a famous mob boss, opposite a legend like Travolta, it put him at the center of a huge production.
It was the culmination of that Hollywood ascent that started just 5 years earlier.
But this is where we have to introduce some really important context, something that a simple career summary might miss.
The reception of Gotti. The sources identify it as his most high-profile role, yes, but the film itself was, well, it was notoriously panned by critics.
That's putting it lightly. It has a 0% approval rating on some major review sites. It's one of the most critically reviled films of its time.
And that's crucial context. A film that's so universally disliked, especially a big, high-profile one, can really disrupt an actor's career momentum.
Even if his performance wasn't the main target of criticism, being a key player in a famous flop, it has a residual impact.
Absolutely. The industry notices that kind of thing. And this is where we need to look at that critical assessment from the source material.
USA Today said that King Cobra and Gotti were his best-known roles, and that they signaled his Hollywood ascent.
And that phrase, signaled his Hollywood ascent, it becomes so deeply ironic in hindsight.
Because these two films, especially Gotti, which should have been his launch pad into the next phase of his career,
they instead mark the end. His documented acting career stops in 2018.
So the question becomes, why did it stop so suddenly? It seems like this combination of a major film failing critically and, well, his ongoing personal controversies.
Exactly. It seems to have created this wall that just stopped his cinematic output. That 7-year gap between 2018 and his death in 2025 is the central mystery.
A 5-year sprint and then 7 years of silence. To understand that, we have to go back.
We have to look at the shadow that was running parallel to his success all along.
This leads us to Section 4, personal life and legal conflict. And we have to be very careful here, sticking to the facts from the sources and conveying the real sympathy that is deserved for the victim.
This incident happened very early in his career, right as his first film was getting attention. The date was August 6, 2013.
Lofranco was driving his SUV. He struck an actress named Camille Banham who was riding her bicycle.
The sources are specific about what happened next, and it is the defining element of the crime.
He initially stopped his vehicle. Reports say he apologized to Mrs. Banham.
So there was that initial moment of accountability, but what followed was a devastating decision.
He went back to his car and he drove away.
Without offering help, without calling 911, he left the scene. This is what turns an accident into a hit and run.
We can't overstate the severity of that. He abandoned someone he had just injured. We have to acknowledge the physical trauma and, frankly, the terror that must have caused for Camille Banham.
The consequences for her were severe. The sources state she was left with a broken hip and other fractures.
A broken hip is a life-altering injury. It requires major surgery, long recovery, intense rehab. The lasting impact is just profound.
So our focus is on the facts here. The severity of the victim's injuries and the legal consequences for Lofranco. He was convicted of misdemeanor hit and run.
It's worth explaining what that means. A misdemeanor is a serious crime, but it's less severe than a felony.
The fact that it remained a misdemeanor, despite the severe bodily injury, it speaks to the specific laws he was charged under, or maybe to the quality of his legal team.
And the sentence he received was 50 days of community service.
So you have to place that sentence, 50 days of community service, next to the physical damage. A broken hip, multiple fractures.
The sources really highlight a difficult disparity in those outcomes.
It's a disparity that the public often struggles with. And for a rising celebrity, that conviction cast a very long shadow over his career, permanently linking his name to this terrible lapse in personal accountability.
And the timing is key. This was August 2013. His career was exploding. He's making Jamesy Boy. He's about to be in Unbroken.
So he's navigating the pressure of major film productions while also dealing with a serious criminal conviction.
It creates that dual narrative we talked about, the disciplined professional on set and the young man who showed this shocking lack of responsibility in his personal life.
The tension between those two identities must have been immense.
Now we have to move forward in time, past the career halt in 2018 to Section 5, the final chapter, in November 2025. That 7-year gap is the most challenging part of this story to analyze.
It is. The source material goes silent on his professional life. What was he doing in those 7 years?
We can only speculate. Maybe the bad reviews for Gotti, plus the shadow of the conviction, made him unhireable. Or maybe he just didn't want it anymore.
An actor with that much early drive doesn't just vanish without some kind of major pressure, either external or internal.
And this context is what makes his final public communication, an Instagram post just 7 days before his death, so revealing and poignant.
The post was on November 11th, 2025.
Let's break down the content of that message, because it's really the only window we have into his mindset at the end.
On one hand, you have this message of hope. He wrote, "The best is yet to come."
It's a classic phrase of optimism, of trying to stage a comeback.
But right alongside that hope were these very unusual, almost desperate details that show a life in chaos.
He encouraged people to subscribe to my OnlyFans.
That is a massive pivot for an actor who worked with Angelina Jolie and John Travolta. It suggests a move toward a totally different kind of self-monetization, something people often turn to when mainstream work dries up.
It implies a struggle for relevance, for attention, and maybe for money. It's a stark contrast to his early promise.
The post also mentioned physical changes. He talked about getting a face tattoo burned out.
That points to a real crisis of identity, maybe an attempt to literally erase a past version of himself. Laser tattoo removal is painful and expensive. It's a major commitment to reinvention.
And then there was that last strange detail about his hair. He wrote, "The hair is on its way. It's got held up customs. Crazy."
Which could mean anything. A wig, a hair system, but it signals he was actively preparing for some kind of new public look that was being delayed.
The whole post is a mosaic of contradictions, optimism and financial hustle, painful self-erasure and logistical problems. It paints a picture of a life in profound flux just days before he died.
And 1 week later, the story ended. He died on November 18th, 2025. He was 33 years old.
His death was in British Columbia, Canada. And it was his older brother, Santino, who made the public announcement.
That family confirmation brought his story to this sudden, tragic end. And it prompted all these reports that framed his life as one of intense promise, cut short.
Which brings us to our closing thoughts, synthesizing this whole trajectory.
We have to emphasize that core contrast. The story starts with rigid discipline, the military academy.
That led to 5 years of explosive success, working with the absolute best in the industry.
But running right alongside it was this intense personal trouble, the hit-and-run conviction, the severe injuries to Camille Banham. That shadow likely contributed to his career halting in 2018.
And that 7-year silence that followed. That's where the most profound struggles probably took place, only illuminated by that one final complex Instagram post.
The USA Today assessment that his final films signaled his Hollywood ascent just rings with this dark, profound irony.
His documented climb to stardom ended at the exact moment it was being declared. The promise that everyone saw, it never fully came to be.
His life, as documented in these reports, is a powerful study in contradiction and in missed potential.
So as we finish our analysis of the material today, we want to leave you with one final thought to consider.
Something that builds on the complexity of his story.
The question for you to reflect on is this. How does the public memory of an actor reconcile significant artistic achievement? You know, being in a film like Unbroken with documented personal actions, like the devastating consequences of the hit and run.
And then how do you add in an abruptly shortened life?
And further, how should that public memory interpret that final phase? That transition from a rising star to the hustling, ambiguous persona we see in his final message? It really challenges us to look beyond the movie roles and consider the complete turbulent picture of a public life that ended just as its promise seemed to fade.
That deep complexity, the promise, the accountability, and the tragic conclusion is what defines the story of Spencer Lofranco. We appreciate you joining us for this extensive analysis of the source material.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.